Rob, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to just introduce yourself and talk about what you do.
My name is Rob Broder. I live in Vermont with my wife and daughter and a bunch of pets. I'm a children's picture book author. Crow and Snow, illustrated by Olivier Tallec, came out in October of 2020. And I have Our Shed, illustrated by Carrie O'Neill, coming out May 4th, 2021. Which just received a Kirkus starred review.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to share that with everyone.
Fantastic. So first, I have a couple questions about Crow and Snow, which I really enjoyed. I liked it. There was something about it that was very quiet in a nice way, because that's not always true of a lot of picture books. I feel like some of them are like a little bit like frenetic, and this was, I thought, was really like calming and quiet in a way that I really liked. So my first question is, what was your inspiration for the book Crow and Snow?
So my inspiration came from, to be honest with you, finding a scrap piece of paper in a notebook from 20 years ago. And the note said, "A scarecrow meets a snowman and needs to say goodbye every spring."
Wow.
So from that note,
I mean, that really sums up the book.
It sums up the book. And from there, it just flew onto the paper, and just the dialogue started happening and their relationship started happening. I didn't know how it was going to end or anything until I started writing it, but just those notes inspired the story to keep going. And mixed in with, obviously I've said goodbye to a lot of people in my life, and so it just, a lot of those little life lessons crept in.
Yeah.
But I tend to write towards capturing a moment more than having a moral at the end of the story. I just like the children to just read something sweet, like you said, the word quiet. I prefer that quiet moment than something outlandish or have a big moral at the end that you learned from.
Yeah, and I feel like that really came through in a nice way, where it feels like it's a nice, because it feels like a moment, but it also is sort of a long period of time too, and you just sort of don't know exactly how long, but it is years. But
it's implied, right? It's implied their friendship went on for years and years, and then, spoiler, the children grow older, so they aren't building a snowman anymore, and years pass without him seeing his friend.
Yeah, and I also thought and maybe if you wanted to talk about a little bit about the relationship of Snow and Crow, because that is also just really interesting, and also especially for Crow, who is a scarecrow, who is sort of the same throughout the book, mostly, right?
Right.
And Snow, who, as you said, is built by kids and comes in and out at different times and sort of in different forms each time.
It's funny you say that. That was actually an illustration note, or when I was signed, I requested that the snowman doesn't look exactly the same every time he's built. I mean, I want him built to where they recognize it's the same character, but to have different features, and he does. One time he has a carrot, another time he has goggles on or a pine cone, because in real life, the snowman is not going to look the same. And so that's the one thing I requested to pass on to the illustrator, and it worked. So
and I really liked that element of it.
And your point of the scarecrow does just stand there throughout every single season, taking in all the weather. So
and you mentioned the illustrations and working with Olivier Tallec, and his work is fantastic, and I was wondering what that process was like working.
So,
because I know that the process is very different for different authors and different
publishers.
Different publishers.
I really did not have a lot of. I was thrilled with the art, but I did not see any sneak previews. I did not
Oh,
work
really?
closely with the illustrator during this project. The publisher sent me things when it was pretty much almost done.
Wow. So you had some notes, like you said, but
Nothing else.
wow.
I waited maybe over almost a year before I even saw what Crow and Snow were going to look like. But which was the complete opposite experience with Our Shed, where the publisher would send me Carrie's updates,
Yeah.
and requested feedback while the book was being made on that regard. But so no, I didn't have any work with Crow and Snow. And the only thing with Crow and Snow is I made one suggestion on where a certain line should be placed on one page. That was the only thing I requested, because when I was reading it, I wished a specific sentence. You turned the page and wished it was on that, and they did, and they switched it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any involvement in the layout of the book.
Which must be a whole, to be able to then see the finished product and sort of be almost not a different book, but sort of, sort of like if you were
Right, he
making
brought
a
the
movie
characters.
and then, yeah.
Bringing the characters that I've been thinking about to life is fun.
Yeah, yeah. One question about whether it's Crow and Snow or your other books of what role does living in Vermont play in your books, if any?
Well, Crow and Snow for sure with the seasons, and even Our Shed has the seasons passing. But if I think it has anything to do with it, it's the times I spend walking and hiking and running by myself in Vermont. I literally stew on stories in these beautiful woods and these beautiful country farms and stuff. So
yeah,
that's where it comes from. Just gives me time to think and look out at the lake.
Yeah, really nice. So you mentioned your new book that's coming out, Our Shed, a father-daughter building story.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about the book? Maybe give us a sneak peek and tell us where we can find it.
Yeah, a little bit about this book. It's available everywhere books are sold, May 4th, 2021. I wrote the manuscript to this book, if I had to take a guess, over 5 years ago. And then I shared it with somebody I was having coffee with, and then that person shared it with the publisher that signed me. There was a couple of edits on the manuscript, and then they liked what I did, and they liked how it was capturing a moment with this father and daughter and the memories that the shed represents. Because in the shed, talking about the seasons changing, in the shed are the shovels and the rakes and the sleds and the sidewalk chalk and the sprinklers. And all those things that are in the shed represent the moments that capture each season. And so that's how the story developed. We had a shed. I have a shed now, but in our other house there was a shed, and I just was wondering when that shed was built and who built it and what goes in it. And that's how the story came about.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to read it and to share it with libraries around the state.
Thanks.
And so this summer, the theme is Tales and Tales, TAILS and TALES. I realized as I was prepping for this, it's without seeing the words. It just sounds like you're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's sort of an animal, animal themed related to animals. And I know that you have several books that feature animals in them, characters. And I was wondering if there's something that you enjoy about having animal characters, and then the follow-up to that is like if you have any pets or have other interactions with animals.
I wrote a book. I wrote a story called Paul and His Ukulele.
Yeah.
And I always pictured when I was writing it, Paul was a boy. But when I saw Jen Kosmierski's artwork, she had these foxes that I really liked, and I just thought this would be perfect if Paul was actually a fox and his parents were a fox and all the other animals, all the other friends are animal friends. And so I do like that aspect. I have another book called Rabbit, Hare, and Bunny, where Rabbit, Hare, and Bunny are roommates, and they get tired of Rabbit and Hare get tired of Bunny's demeanor. So I like that we can put silly situations in with animals and not so much as people, because then sometimes maybe the children can understand it a little more. But yeah, that's just, I'm up for however the story is told. I'm open to all ways the illustrator can express the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a 16-year-old dog behind me sleeping on the dog bed, and two great cats at home.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I have a dog who's right underneath the desk as I'm interviewing you.
Great.
So the last question is, this has been a challenging year for, I think, for a lot of people, and especially for young people. Do you have any advice for young people and young readers for this summer and beyond?
I would say write stories, draw pictures, tell stories. I know a lot of kids are into graphic novels these days, slightly older than picture book age, and keep writing and reading and express your feelings through that. I really like graphic novels and picture books, so it'd be great to. That's what I would encourage if we're still going down this weird road.
Great, thank you. Any plans to write a graphic novel or
no
like
plans,
that?
But no plans. I'm sticking
just curious since you mentioned it.
I like reading them though.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Rob, so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for reaching out. It was nice talking with you.
Yeah, nice talking with you.